Now the Port of Murray Bridge here, she was first born in about 1864. But before that, this whole area was known as the Turnoff, as many of the overlanders bringing their cattle and sheep from various parts of Victoria and South Australia would get to the river here and either cross or turn off. But before that, the Aboriginals, they had a name for this place all for their own. And when that's translated into English, it means heaven for birds. Now 9 years after the town was first settled here, you got the first bridge over the Murray. However, some people think that 20 years earlier, further up at Echuca, a man by the name of Henry Hopwood, he had himself a pontoon bridge. So they're not really sure who or where the first bridge came from. But by all accounts, it was here on the Murray Bridge. Then 9 years after that, they got their first railway bridge, which meant all of the river traffic that used to go down to Goolaway, 113 kilometres downriver, instantly stopped. And this place here, these wharfs, became a thriving inland port and a very popular town, and it grew very quickly. Now, as history goes, when the first bridge was built here across the Murray, a man threw himself into one of these huge pylons here behind me because he wanted to get entombed in concrete. Now, as you can imagine, back when they first built these bridges, this railway bridge, there would have been no way of getting him out. So once he jumped in, all these crewmen did was kind of shake their head and then keep on building. Now it's the first thing in the morning on our second day now, and this mud is very soft and very stinky and very disgusting. But I have something, just over here, that when I get out of this, I'm going to show you. Now these banks that I'm walking up, they're called Levy banks, and they start way downstream at Wellington, about 20 kilometres, and they go a kilometre after kilometre upriver. And what they're designed to do is keep the water out of the valuable pastoral land to my right here. And that's very important because all the dairy farmers in this area, they help supply over 44 million litres of milk all throughout Adelaide all year round. Now back in 1929, all these levee banks were finished, and they were built by hundreds and hundreds of men of all different nationalities, and they got a nickname for the mud packers. And the incredible thing about all these levee banks is that all of them were built by hand. This little town I have to my left here is called Mannum, and it's 150 kilometres from the river mouth. And it was known to be the birthplace of the paddle steamer. And it was once called by the river travellers Pondi, which is Aboriginal for place of the Great Murray Cod. Now these are huge freshwater fish, and the largest one that was ever caught was in 1960, and that weighed 113 kilograms. Now, the very first paddle steamer to ever lay a keel in the Murray was built here in Mannum in 1852 by William R. Randall. And he was one of the great pioneers of the Murray River in the early paddle steamer days and the river trading days. The first ever paddle steamer to be in the water here was called the Mary Ann, and that was done just upriver from this spot here. But Mr. Randall, he also built himself a huge shipping yard here at Mannum, as well as some dry docks, but later on he sold that to a guy who eventually owned 7 paddle steamers, and the largest one he had was named the Mannum, and she was 135 feet long. Now the town of Mannum here first started to take off because of the river trade, but it also started to grow when wheat was first planted in this area. The first man to do that was a butcher whose name was Benjamin Baisby, and he did so right here in this very oval, which is now the Mannum Showgrounds. And then a man by the name of Mr. Walker, he built the very first flour mill here, and he did that in 1876. And from there he supplied damper and bread all throughout Queensland using the river boats, using camel trains and using bullock teams. Well, as you can see, it's too dark here now for me to show you any more of this town, but in the morning I'm going to come back and show you something which changed the way farmers all over this district did their work. Okay, now let's see if we can go and find that contraption that I was talking about last night. Now what I was looking for is a thing called a stump jump plough. And that was designed back in 1877 by 2 brothers, a John and a David Shearer. And it was here in Mannum that they first patented the idea of this particular plough. Now the stump jump plough, like the rest of them back in their days, were towed by bullies. But the difference between the stump jump plough and the rest of them was that with the stump jump, when it hit a log or a stone, the actual plough would jump up over the obstacle and then keep on going, instead of the old versions which would hit the obstacle and then bend and wreck the machine or wreck the apparatus. So the stump jump was plough in the ground, it would hit a hard rock, a big spring would spring it up, it would come back in and keep on going without any damage to the equipment. So it was 130 years ago in this very spot that the Shearer brothers designed and built the very first stump jump plough. But now, Horwood Bagshire Industries has carried on the great tradition of making some of the world's best and leading farm machinery. And some of their machinery is just in here in this shed. And up here we have a thing called the Scary Bar, and I'll show you that because I think you'll find it's quite interesting. So on this machine here, what happens is at the front goes a cutting blade, which gets lowered then into the dirt and digs the hole. We move to the back, and we have another cutting blade, and they're shaped like this, and you get different sorts and different shapes. Then we have 2 tubes. In the first tube goes down fertiliser. In the second tube drops down a seed, and then some more fertiliser. Then at the back here we have this wheel, and that compresses the whole lot into the dirt, and it's shaped like it is, so when it crushes the seed in, it's then left a bit of a channel, so when it rains, the water rushes in and waters the seed. Now if you plant wheat with this machine here, within 4 days, if you get some rain, you can have a shoot coming into the ground about this big. Now the old stump jump plough that we're talking about, when they were brand new, they were about 200 pounds. But you can pick up one of these bad boys for about $146,000. Well, we're finished here at Mannum, so let's get back in the boat and head further on up the river. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, that way you'll get notified to all my new videos when I upload them. And if you want to contact me, you can do so through my website, the link's in the description below. See you next time.